around. Hey, sir.
The electrify everything.
Let's get started, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Good evening, and I welcome everyone to the July 23rd meeting of the City of Minnetonka. This is our Sustainability Commission. Excuse me. This is our 11th in-person meeting and third one of this year. The Commission generally meets every other month on the second Tuesday of the month. The schedule and tentative agenda can be obtained by contacting the city's planning department or by visiting the city's website at minnetonkamn.gov. Residents can provide input on the agenda via email or provide input tonight during this meeting if so desired. The Sustainability Commission here in Minnetonka, our first meeting, believe it or not, was May 2021. Seems like a long time ago. Since then, we have accomplished a lot of tremendous, we've accomplished a tremendous amount of work, of useful and practical actions, I'm very proud to say. Areas of review for our commission include air, water, energy, land, ecological resources, recycling, and waste management, and other related sustainability areas not addressed by city code or another city advisory group. The Sustainability Commission has a unique role here in Minnetonka, as we serve both as an advisor to the City Council and as ambassador for city programs. As an advisor to the City Council, the Sustainability Commission makes recommendations on city plans, policies, procedures, programs, practices, and proposals that relate to sustainability and conservation of our environmental resources. Final decisions are then made by the City Council. As an ambassador, excuse me, the Sustainability Commission attends events to promote city initiatives with the public, as we will learn more about tonight. So that is item 1 on our agenda. That's a call to order. And item 2 is roll call. And with that, staff, would you please call roll?
Sure. Burr.
Here.
Carr.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Norman.
Here.
Batain.
Here.
Golub.
Here. Thank you, staff. There are 7 of us here tonight. That concludes item number 2. Moving along, we're going to go to item number 3, approval of our agenda. Mr. Ingleson, do you have anything to share about tonight's meeting?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for that. We do have a change memo. So there were a few items under the item 5E, neighborhood green teams, that were sort of found after the report was written. So we added those into the report. We'll be hearing about them tonight also. But you can look through there. There's links in this the change memo that we have. So that was the only one that we had for a change memo tonight. So when you do the approval for agenda, we can do them all in a group approval, but that's the only change to include in it.
Thank you, Mr. Ingleson. With that addition, would one of my fellow commissioners like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Is there a first?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Henry. Is there a second?
I seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Staff, would you please poll the commission members?
And we can do this one as an all unison, so just so you can note, everyone can say aye all at the same time.
Aye.
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 I think to clarify, I think it was unanimous.
I think we got it, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Motion passes. Item 4, approval of the minutes from our March 19th, 2024 meeting. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes? I'm scanning. No one does, and neither do I. Everything looks fine. So what I would like is a motion to approve the minutes from our January 19th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Should we just do a unanimous?
Yep, Chair, you can just say all in favor, say aye, and then we'll all say aye at the same time.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That was item 4. We're going to move to item 5, which is our agenda items. I will turn the meeting back over to Mr. Ingleson. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chair. So we have 5 different items on our agenda tonight. None of them are going to require a vote, just for a note for tonight. So all of them are more discussion related, really educating on sort of what some different projects the staff has been working on and our Green Corps members who we have tonight behind me. So that's just a note for all these different things. It's nothing will be voted on. It's all sort of an idea share. So feel free to ask questions, think of how this could sort of work within the city, things like that. And right now, I'm going to actually turn it over. We do have someone. We usually would do this during notes from staff, but we have someone here who is at their first meeting. So it might be a good time, Chair, to have that person give a little introduction.
Thank you, Ms. Ingleson. Tonight, I'd like to welcome Dave Carr. Dave, if you'd like to give us a little background, we would be delighted.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to hopefully be able to contribute something to the Sustainability Commission. My background is ever since I was young, it was drilled into my head to leave things better than we found it. And during the 70s when I was in college and a young man, the Clean Air Act was passed, the EPA was begun, the Clean Water Act was passed, so it was kind of in my learning and blood while I was in college. And while I was working construction, I worked for some major construction firms. I've tried to always make sure we were building responsibly with environmental concerns in mind at all times, and I was one of the founding members of the Minnesota chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council back in the 80s, so I'm aging myself. But we brought forward that chapter in Minnesota and just recently renewed my membership, and hopefully I can bring a few resources forward that we've used during construction. I'm a construction manager, build hospitals, so I have to make sure that we do them responsibly.
Thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate it. Welcome to the Sustainability Commission.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Going back to Ms. Ingleson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So I'm going to actually turn over the mic. Usually I speak here for a lot of time. I know I see someone already nodding their heads. Usually you have to indulge me in an hour and a half to 2.5 hours of speaking. But tonight I'm actually going to sit back a little bit and let our Green Corps members who have been here for the past 10 months talk a little bit about all the things they've been doing because they've been very busy. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Claire Grilly to present on the our first item 5A.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Claire Grilly and I will be discussing the projects that I have been working on, past, current, and future projects with my last few weeks. In my Green Corps term, I focused on waste reduction and recycling as well as organics recycling. So starting off with past projects and events, I created a reuse directory in December of 2023. This consisted of local businesses that rent, repair, or sell used items. This was intended to be a resource for anybody who lives in Minnetonka or visits Minnetonka who might want to visit a business that reuses items or rents items, repairs things with the intent of reducing waste and encouraging sustainable practices. I had assistance from the Public Works Department to create this interactive map to go along with the directory so people can locate the businesses easily. This is what the reuse directory looks like. It is interactive, not on this, but when you go to our waste reduction webpage, you can click on any of those links under the business name and it takes you to the business's website. Moving on, the Plastic Free Challenge was in February of 2024. We had 31 participants, all members of the Minnetonka community. We had over 1,600 points gathered. The purpose of this event was it was a virtual month-long event where participants can do activities and learn tips to reduce their plastic consumption and complete activities to reduce waste. And we had over 270 minutes spent learning and 14 pounds of carbon dioxide saved. In May of this year, we had our reuse swap. This was the first reuse swap that the city of Minnetonka has hosted. This was just for clothing items, shoes, clothes, and small accessories like hats and purses. We had 104 signups for bringing items. We had 76 participants total day of the event. At the end of the event, we measured how much was left over after the event ended. During the event, we had weights taken of everything brought in, and so that was our total of 782.4 pounds. And then at the end of the event, we measured everything that was left behind, which was the 450.8. So we did the simple math that there was 331.6 pounds taken home by participants, and the rest was donated to the Ablite Thrift Store in Minnetonka. This was just where the reuse swap took place, in our banquet room at the community center. And these were our volunteers, pictured with one of our council members. I also wanted to include Chair Brian Golub. He was not pictured in this photo, but he did volunteer and assist with us. The other volunteer members were Kessa, Angie, Delia, Sarah, all Green Corps members, as well as Drew. We had a post-reuse swap survey available for participants, either in physical format or they could take the survey online. We just had a little QR code that people could scan. So we had 30 responses, 14 were physical surveys, 16 online. It was a very, very positive review of the event. One of the questions asked was, what would be a themed reuse swap that you would like to see in the future? And the most popular choice was a winter clothing swap. Another question asked was, would you attend this event again? That was 100% yes from all respondees. And the question, would you like to see more reuse swaps throughout the year? That was a 93% yes. So common responses to that, when I had like a little comment section underneath, it was twice a year, 4 times a year, seasonal. So a lot of people want to see a lot more of these reuse swaps throughout the year. And moving on, I had a waste reduction and recycling presentation as part of the Coffee and Conversations Sustainability Series hosted by the Recreation Department. This was on Thursday, May 30th. We had waste reduction tips, plastic recycling, traditional recycling, organics recycling information, where waste goes, and some of the things that the city of Minnetonka is doing for their sustainable efforts with recycling and waste reduction. This was an informational presentation, but also just a space for people to ask questions that Drew and I could answer. We had 23 attendees in total. And these are a couple pictures from that presentation. Next event was the Special Community Drop-Off Day. This was on June 1st. This was an event where residents can dispose of appliances, large appliances, household items, tires, that sort of thing, pretty much anything. I mean, it's a very popular event. We had 991 vehicles, and my part of this event was recruiting Better Futures Minnesota to attend the event to collect building materials to be reused. This is a newer something we hadn't done before at our special community drop-off days before. So Better Futures was a newer face that had come to the event. We collected over 2,600 pounds of building materials. And just a quick info about Better Futures, it's a nonprofit workforce development program. specializes in deconstruction, building maintenance, appliance, recycling, and janitorial services. They accept building materials to be reused or recycled. They have their own reuse warehouse where they can resell building materials. And just a quick add-on, deconstruction is the process of taking apart or removing building materials for reuse. And accepted items at our event were in good condition building materials such as doors, hardware, interior lighting, sinks, toilets, tile, windows, wood flooring. This was very popular. A lot of people were very happy they had the opportunity to donate these items and see that they were being reused. Another project that I worked on was creating a plastic resin code identification guide. This is used as a resource to explain resin codes on plastic products with included examples and what is acceptable for recycling in Hennepin County. This has been a very common and confusing topic that I've seen while I've been tabling at events. That's a very common question I get asked, is what the numbers mean. So I finally had time and decided to create a little resin guide that has pictures and examples and is kind of easily accepted, visible for people to see, and is applicable to residents of Hennepin County. I have been passing this out at tabling events. I've been at the farmers markets quite a few times this summer so far. Ongoing projects include multifamily organic recycling outreach. I have done this outreach with KESA. We contacted over 100 properties via email and phone calls. My main goal of this outreach was to educate property managers on organic recycling and assist them with implementation of organics recycling programs. I provided them with resources from Hennepin County, WasteWise, and the City of Minnetonka's waste reduction web page. This was a very long-term project, and I only have had one facility who has expressed a lot of interest in implementing an organics recycling program. Lack of implementation and interest has just been, from when I've talked with property managers, has been from busy schedules, heavy workloads, lack of interest from residents. So we're still working on it, but we're very excited to have one facility that has expressed a lot of interest. That is Cedar Point Townhomes. I originally met with their property manager back in March, and he told me that he has been wanting to implement organic recycling at his facility for quite a few years. They just haven't had time. And so I came there to be a helping hand, gave the property manager info on grant funding, connected him with Hennepin County staff. We met back up in June to present information to residents about what can be composted, answer general questions. The property is researching options on to add organic bins to their neighborhood for residential use, and they are working with a staff member from WasteWise to apply for grant funding from Hennepin County. Another project was doing, along with the outreach, I did some presentations to, offered to do presentations to these facilities for residents who might be interested in asking questions or just learning more about recycling or organics recycling. So in June, I presented information to Havenwood of Minnetonka Senior Living, where I just presented information about general recycling. One of the staff members at this facility told me that a lot of their residents had a lot of questions and were very confused about recycling, so I was very happy to go over and help answer some questions. I gave them information about what the resin codes mean, what can be recycled, how recycling works in Minnesota, where recycling goes, and I gave them lots of information about what they can do to encourage their residents to do more recycling in their facility. So next ongoing project is the Nextrex program. This is our plastic recycling program where this City Hall and the Williston Fitness Center have large bins at they're located in the vestibules of the building where people can drop off plastic films, bags, wrap that cannot be easily recycled, are not accepted in curbside bins, but are still recyclable. Examples include plastic grocery bags, produce bags, salt, ice bags, newspaper sleeves, cereal bags, bubble wrap, and case overwrap. Those are just a few examples, and this picture to the right is what a typical pickup looks like that was probably just like 2 or 3 days worth of plastic collected before I picked it all up from both City Hall and Williston. And this is what the bins look like. These are our bins located at the Williston Fitness Center. I also added flyers available for people to take home so they can have the information readily available on what is accepted and what isn't accepted. Williston has 4 bins, and then City Hall has 2 bins. I am typically doing pickups 3 times a week. To help with contamination, I also created these small signs to put on top of the bins that just state what resin codes are accepted with these plastic products, just to help people identify what is accepted in these bins. So it's 2s, 4s, or if the product just simply says store drop off, those are the accepted items that we can take and bring to be recycled. So here is just some data we have since we started in December of 2022. We have collected over 7,500 pounds of plastic. In 2023, it was nearly 5,000, and in 2024, up until I think the last time we entered the data into this, it was in July. So just in 2024, we've collected over 2,500 pounds. Average per month has been roughly around 405 pounds. And when I arrived and started doing pickups back in October, I was measuring contamination, and it started out at 13% and went down to about 7% this year, with the help of the flyers that I put up and the little signs that I put up, and as well as we made a note in our Minnetonka memo in February just to remind people of what is accepted and what isn't accepted. We have had a few issues with this program, which the main one has been contamination. So those signs and the note in the Minnetonka memo have contributed to the lowering contamination. The other issue has just been overpopularity. It is a very, very busy program. Every time I pick up, I get a lot of positive feedback saying, this is really helpful. I love that I'm able to do this here, especially at Williston. It's just a convenient drop-off for people who are going to work out already. But it has been difficult to keep up with collection every single day. So, because my Green Corps term is ending, the city's participation will be paused as of August 10th. We are making announcements on social media, the city website, city TVs, emails, posters at the bins, and in the August Minnetonka memo. We have been advertising that alternative locations include Cub Foods, Target, and Lunds and Byerly's. We have posted these as big posters next to our bins starting mid-July. Just a couple weeks ago, we started this kind of slowdown of the program, and our last day, yes, is August 10th, like I said. And for general outreach, I have tabled on 9 different occasions at the City of Minnetonka's open house back in October. 3 winter farmers markets. I tabled at the Ridgedale Library twice, and I have so far tabled at the Minnetonka's summer farmers markets twice, and I will do another one coming up in a couple weeks. I have created quite a few Minnetonka memo posts as well. The plastic-free challenge, next Trex contamination, the reuse swap was in the memo twice for April and May. We had promotion for the Better Futures attending the special community drop-off day event, and August memo will be information about city's participation ending in the next Trex program. Just some more general outreach was I created social media posts in collaboration with our communications department, including tips on waste reduction, recycling, as well as promotion for various events that were going on throughout the year. Upcoming events are the Stop Food Waste Challenge in August. We have a City of Minnetonka team similar to the Plastic Free Challenge. This will be a month-long virtual event. And similar promotion as well. And as of right now, we have 15 community members registered. The last upcoming event will be the Waste Reduction and Recycling webinar. This will take place on August 8th at 6 p.m. This will be very similar to the presentation I gave in May that is all about waste reduction, plastic recycling, traditional recycling, organic recycling, giving information where waste goes and what the City of Minnetonka is doing. And promotion for this is been creating flyers, social media posts, and email blasts. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Do my fellow commissioners have any questions for Claire? Commissioner Henry.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks, Claire, for the presentation and all the great work that you're doing. I know it's a lot of work that you did, but it really benefits the community and the earth as a whole. So we're really appreciative of that. A couple of questions. Number one, in your opinion, how can we get the word out better to everybody about the recycle codes and what can and can't be recycled in home recycling bins? I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
I have been finding that tabling at events has been really helpful. I have taken advantage of a lot of Hennepin County's resources. They have a lot of free resources available for recycling. I was able to order dozens of magnets that have recycling guides on them, and a lot of people have been very excited about those. They're just like little 5x6 magnets that have recycling guides on them for both recycling and organics recycling. Other initiatives I haven't thought too much about yet. I have found that just talking with community members has been very helpful, and even just talking to them, they'll say, you know, I need to tell my parents about this because that's important information. And I think just that word of mouth spreading information has been very impactful.
Thanks. I'm not sure if we have the budget for it, but I thought we could have maybe a sticker that people could put on their recycle bins. That way it's top of mind whenever they go out there and say, well, can I put this in or not? They see it right there. So just an idea to keep in mind for later. Also, I'm not sure how much research you did into this, but do you know what the overall general contamination percentage is in homeowners' recycle bins? And has that contamination percentage gone down after you did your program?
I have not kept track of that data. That would be something that the haulers keep track of, but I did not do a lot of outreach with them, so I haven't been able to collect that information.
Okay. Drew, I'm not sure if that's in our purview, but if you could take some notes and if we can get that, I'd love to see a before and after and see the efficacy of your efforts, Claire.
Yep. And if I can hop in here just for a second, Commissioner Henry. Yep, I'm taking notes here, so anything you say, I'm putting that down as something to think about.
Thank you.
Commissioner Green, I do recall that Republic indicated that they were allowed up to or less than 15% contamination of what they received for recycling. So that's at least one statistic, and they were well under that.
I think that's good to hear.
Clara, I also wanted to thank you for an incredible job this year. You organized some very effective programs that were new and challenging. The swap reuse is awesome, and I'd love to see that continue. The drop-off was incredible, 900 vehicles, and clearly a demand for that. And I appreciate your education, because I think that's the implementation of our climate action adaptation plan now, to educate the community and provide resources. I had a couple questions about the Next Treks. Could you estimate how many hours per week you needed to work on that?
Yes, that has been kind of time demanding. I set aside an hour at least for pickups. Sometimes it's not quite an hour, sometimes it's more, but taking into account that I drive from City Hall to the Williston Center, and then I drive to Cub Foods in Minnetonka. So I think driving alone is at least 15 minutes, and then pickups can sometimes take a long time when I have to sort through contamination. But thankfully contamination has gone down, so I have been able to save some time. But I'd say, like, I usually pick up 3 times a week, so maybe 3 hours a week.
Okay. And do you know of other communities who are neighboring communities who are providing this service?
I have only discovered one other community that did the program. It was, I believe, the city of Anoka. I reached out to them. They only did the 6-month recycling challenge, where you collect as much plastic as you can in 6 months, and the city receives a bench made from recycled plastic.
Yeah.
If they collect a certain amount, I believe it's like 1,000 pounds or something like that. And so the city of Anoka also did this program. They told me that it was also a very time-consuming program, which is why they did not continue after the 6 months. That's the only one I've found so far.
With it being a very popular and productive program, plus the marketing is evident for everyone coming and going at Williston and City, I would like to see a way to utilize additional volunteers, potentially for this program to resume in fall. So thank you for your efforts in getting it set up.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer.
Chair, if I may. Chair.
Go ahead.
Just to address the commissioner's desires, I think just to let you know, staffing is an issue. Without the Green Corps members, I don't think we could make any of this possible. So, and I think you kind of sense that it has been taxing even before they were here to get staff members to do the running to building. So unless we fulfill that staffing need and there's allowed time to do that, then we'll get back to that conversation. But we're not making any promises at this point, just to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Patain?
Thank you. Sorry, if you could elaborate on that. When you say staffing is an issue, is it that we're waiting for a position to be filled, or is it that we don't have capacity to fulfill that duty right now?
All of the above.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think once we filled the position for Drew's position, then
Is there capacity in that role to do this work?
we'll see. We'll just see how much other items you have on your list. Because I think the outreach does kind of get in the way of daily work in terms of trying to be out and about in the community. And so if that's more of an effort with the climate action plan and some of the information in there, then that takes priority, not this. So I think it just depends on what happens.
Of course. And then additionally, just to better understand the real need there. So first of all, I wanted to start off also by saying thank you so much for your work. As you know, waste reduction is something that I am particularly passionate about. So I especially appreciated all the work that you have done. I think your presentation very much shows the commitment that you had towards our city and the commitment that you had towards waste reduction to the community and to improving it. And so I hope you know how much we appreciate you. So thank you very much for that. Additionally, I also was really appreciative. So actually, I'm going to go back to my first point, because of course I took notes. So my first point is, I know you said you used about 3 hours per week that you committed towards the Next Trek project. Was that enough time, or was there more time that needed to be committed to it? Just so we can have an understanding of like how much time you were actually committing, and that's like, you know.
No, I would say that was enough time just for the collection aspect.
Okay.
I would have occasional meetings with our communications department about promotion and education, but it didn't take too much time to just print out the flyers that Nextrex had available to me. So no, I would not say it needed much extra time than that.
Okay, that's very helpful to know. Thank you. And then additionally, I think, and then maybe the fellow commissioners can help me remember this, or perhaps Mr. Ingleson, when we initially decided to start the Next Trek project, was this meant to be a long-term project? I know it initially started as a bench, and then we saw how popular it was, and so we decided to continue it. Was it meant to be long-term? Did we meet?
Yeah, Commissioner Pertain and Chair. I would say when we started this program, there wasn't really an end date. I think I got that question. I know I got that question quite a bit from people saying, "Well, when's this end?" And what I always respond to people was, "To be determined." We never set an official end date. We never set an official goal. I think something that was surprising when I first started this, just to give everyone some background, I had one bin that we were going to have at 2 different locations, and that quickly was a problem. And I sort of envisioned this being something probably that someone on the staff would do once a week, probably. Once a week, pick these things up, maybe take a half hour or something, just would be grabbing bags, dropping them off. Quickly learned that wasn't the case. So it's become very popular, which is positive. However, we did not anticipate the staff time and need. I think 3 hours just for picking up, as Claire mentioned, that's probably about what she would think about 3 times a day. But I think, there are other things that she mentioned too, working with communications to try and reduce that waste. That's been a pretty big hurdle. So that did take some time in thinking about how we could address that problem. But it's been a lot larger than we had originally anticipated. But to answer your first question, there wasn't a set time.
Thank you. That was really helpful to better understand that. Additionally, I do also, though, appreciate the communication that is going out and making sure that the community knows the other locations that they can utilize, because I think that is really important. I tend to utilize Target, but I also know that I am like jamming them into the Target bins as well. So I think we might be overwhelming Target also, personally. But I appreciate you all. I think they know me now, because I lift up the bin and stuff some bags in there. But anyways, I also use my reusable bags, y'all. I don't know where those plastic bags come from. That's all I'm saying. Additionally, but thank you guys for making sure that you're communicating that to the community. Additionally, I also wanted to say I definitely appreciate the swaps. I don't know how I missed that in the memo. I read the memo religiously, and so I am disappointed I missed out on that, because I'm a big fan of swaps of that nature, especially, and I was really excited to hear that it was so well received, and also that you did a survey to find out if people wanted to see them again. I think personally, seasonally sounds amazing, and also themed ones. This is my bias, but especially for children, like a back to school situation, or like let's clean out the garage of these bikes that are too small for people, a swap. I love that idea. You swap the small bike, you get a bigger bike. I think that's a wonderful situation. Personally, smaller pair of skates, you get the bigger right size pair of skates. Y'all know what I'm saying. But I think I love the idea of the swap. So I hope that is something that we are able to continue, especially even with the volunteer effort. I think that is what Commissioner Meyer was saying. I'd be happy to help with that. I know Drew's like, don't sign yourself up for nothing else. I would help with that. I promise y'all. So I think the swap, though, is something that we should definitely, at least seasonally, potentially consider, and definitely I hope the fellow commissioners that that's something that we could put our energies or force behind. And even if we could pair it with some other event or something of that nature. So really appreciate that. Additionally, I appreciate the work towards the multifamily homes organics recycling. You know I'm passionate about organics recycling. I know it's a hard sell for people, and I know it can seem like a commitment up front. But I appreciate you trying, and I am glad that there was some communication and there was someone who was open to it, and one building that's open to it, because it's just little by little we keep chipping away at it. So definitely appreciate that, because I think that is amazing. And I think that is all of my notes. Thank you, though, for everything that you have done. Y'all have been doing amazing work. I'm very much looking forward to what Kessa has to share with us as well. So thank you.
Any other comments for Claire, from my fellow commissioners? If not, let me extend my deep appreciation, Claire, for all of your absolutely fantastic work. You've done great work. It's exciting to read over this report, to see everything that you've done, to see how much you've impacted our efforts at the community. It's been fantastic. It's heartening to see this. It is personally disappointing. I understand the staffing issue on the next tracks. I'm curious, how many benches did the city of Minnetonka receive based on about 7,000 pounds worth of plastics? Do we know? I'm just curious. Claire, do you know?
Yes, we received, 2 for sure, and then I think the third is en route now. You can see the 2 benches at the marsh. They're right outside the marsh, and I don't know where our third bench is. I don't even know if it's arrived yet, but yes, we could have done more benches, but we didn't think we needed, 7 benches or something like that. But it's just when we register for the challenge is when we can receive a bench. Otherwise, we have just been collecting plastic just because we can, not just for a bench. But I would like to note that it took us, I think, 2 months to get to 1,000 pounds. I think we started the work for the third bench in late March, and it was over by mid-June, I think, or even earlier. I can't remember the exact dates. It didn't take long. So yeah, we have 3 benches.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, once again, thank you, Claire, for your fantastic work. You'll be sorely missed. There's no doubt about that. Before I jump to item 5B, I want to simply digress for a moment. I want to just go over quickly the procedure for the agenda items. I ask staff to present their report. I ask my fellow commissioners for clarifying questions. If no one is registered to comment, no one is tonight, I will open and close the public input portion for this agenda item. And no one is in the audience, so I will open and close this portion of the agenda, and no vote is required. This is informational. So with that, we're going to move on to item 5B. Mr. Ingvelson.
And that one is our other Green Corps member, Kessa, so I'll hand the mic over to her.
Great. So I'm Kessa Andrews. I was also a Green Corps member this year. Our work started in the end of September, and my last day will be August 6th. So I will be talking about all of the work that I've done from then until now, and then kind of ongoing projects. Okay, so my focus areas were energy efficiency, electrification, and renewable energy. So I will talk about my projects as they related to each of those, and then a general outreach section. So the first project that I worked on was encouraging building energy assessments for lots of different types of organizations in our community. So one was single family homes. And actually, let me back up. So for anyone who doesn't know what an energy assessment is, it's when an energy auditor, who's a professional that's trained to look at buildings, comes out to a building and they'll look at the envelope. So any places that kind of touch the exterior of a building. And so the point of it is to make sure that your insulation and all of those things are keeping your building warm and dry, keeping that energy inside. They'll also look at your appliances and your energy bills to determine how much you're using and then how to decrease that energy usage. And buildings are the highest source of energy emissions in the city, so it's really important to do this work and increase our efficiency. So the types of outreach I did is for single-family homes, there's the Home Energy Squad through the Center for Energy and Environment, and Excel and Centerpoint Energy. And I tabled 10 times at different community spaces and events to promote this program to residents. And I was at the Minnetonka City Open House, the Ridgedale Public Library 3 times, the Marsh, Williston Fitness Center, Fair for All, which is an event that actually happens in Richfield. So a group of cities, sustainability folks, we teamed up to go to these different events to kind of spread the word on energy efficiency and home energy, the Home Energy Squad program. And then we were also at the Minnetonka Winter Farmers Market and Summer Farmers Market as well. I had some particularly meaningful interactions with some residents who had like high energy bills, so it was good outreach to do. And then I also did outreach for multifamily buildings as well with Claire. As she mentioned, we talked to over 100 properties, and we did get well, we had conversations with 17 property managers in total out of all of those kind of more extended conversations. And at that point, we found that 8 properties had already completed an energy assessment, and then 8 weren't interested. And then 2 properties actually did complete a full energy assessment through the program. There are a few that are still in progress with that. And then also for nonprofits and religious institutions, I also did outreach on that. So I'm going to move some slides forward as well. Sorry, I forgot to move my slides forward. So let me give you the visuals here. Sorry. So this was the single family homes with some numbers. And then the multifamily buildings with some of the numbers. And then nonprofits. So 10 had already done this program through Interchange, which is a nonprofit that does this for free. And then while I was here, we had 7 actually complete the program through my outreach. And then 1 is still in process, and there's 3 that are kind of on the way. So kind of continuing that. And we were able to also feature St. David's Episcopal Church in the Minnetonka memo and how the program helped them out and kind of how they benefited from it. So now I'm going to move on to electrification projects. So mainly what I was doing around electrification was raising awareness about electric appliances, sharing the tax incentives and rebates that are available. And I focused on electric vehicles and electric yard equipment and also air source heat pumps as well. On electric vehicles, we hosted a very successful workshop where 50 people attended from the community, and we had Jukka Kukkonen, who's a local expert from Shift to Electric and Fresh Energy, come and speak, and he's a really engaging speaker. And the audience was really engaged and had a lot of great questions. We also had 8 electric vehicle owners bring their vehicles to show after the event, and the attendees could go and ask questions of the owners. And a lot of people left like ready to purchase a vehicle, so that was a really, really great event. And then in terms of electric yard equipment, So we did do a social media post in the fall on electric leaf blowers, kind of trying to time that seasonally. And we did have a good amount of responses on social media towards that. And then we also had an electric yard equipment seminar as well. So that was where a few people brought demo equipment. So it was 2 hardware stores, and then some local residents brought demo equipment. And residents could come and take a look at that and kind of see different brands and examples of electric yard equipment that they might be interested in purchasing. And there were 10 attendees, and we also had the support of, I do want to shout out DeKine's True Value and also the American Lung Association and Gopher Ace. So those were some of the participants. So we also had Everything Electric. So that was our 3rd annual Everything Electric event, and that was on July 16th, so just happened. It was in the JCPenney parking lot of the Ridgedale Shopping Center, so right next to Ridgedale Commons during the farmers market. And it was a very successful event in terms of we had a lot of participants. So we had 5 electric vehicle dealerships, 5 solar companies, 3 e-bike companies, 2 hardware stores, and then Xcel Energy, Citizens Utility Board, and commuter services. And then we also had electric vehicle owners. So a lot of different participants came with a lot of different types of electric equipment and ways to increase energy efficiency there. In terms of renewable energy, so I worked on community solar this year, so I did research into what those programs, like what the program is like and kind of the different opportunities that people have to access community solar. What I really wanted to do was make it really easy for residents to understand what community solar is, because it can seem kind of complicated, and also to then really easily access community solar. So what I did is that kind of that initial legwork of reaching out to all of the companies that offer community solar subscriptions in the Xcel Energy territory, and then determined kind of the terms of those subscriptions. And then I created a spreadsheet which is available on the Sustainable Minnetonka website, and I also shared it with some other organizations as well, because that was kind of a need that I identified through multiple organizations that have those kind of resources, including like clean energy resource teams and other organizations in the solar space. And then we hosted a community solar workshop with our very own Commissioner Meyer, as well as Reed Wahlberg and myself. We presented on community solar. We shared that research of the terms, and Commissioner Meyer and Reed also had a very great kind of presentation about what community solar is, why it's important, and kind of the history of it over time and where it is now. And we had 30 attendees for that, so that was a really successful presentation as well. And I think a lot of people had a lot of great questions and left with kind of more knowledge and hopefully ready to actually subscribe to community solar. We also hosted a workshop on rooftop solar with Solar United Neighbors. This was our first time working with the Solar United Neighbors organization, and their staff, Bobby King, came and presented on rooftop solar, and also he shared about their co-op model. So there were 12 attendees, residents in the community who came, and I did do a survey as well for this event, and people generally found the event positive. People also requested more information, and that was kind of general to most of the workshops that I hosted. Was people were generally positive, and if anything, wanted more information usually. Okay, so then I also did general outreach this year as well. So I did subscriber emails to some of our lists of people who had said they were interested in sustainability topics. One was about the state rebate for electric vehicles. I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that that was coming out, and I knew that funding was going to be ticking down, and so wanted to make sure community members could access that and were aware of that. And then I also crafted an email specifically directed at our nonprofits and tax-exempt organizations about the direct pay option through the Inflation Reduction Act, because I wanted to make sure that organizations in our community were aware of that option and could be inspired to and kind of access that incentive around different projects that they might be doing around sustainability. I think I mentioned I did a lot of tabling where I talked about Home Energy Squad, but we also covered a lot of other topics at those tabling events. Wanted to kind of make sure that we were connecting with residents where they were at and what they were interested in. So we would always pass out the LED light bulbs, which are very popular and get people inspired about lighting efficiency, which is definitely a huge thing in people's homes. And then we also talked about the inflation reduction tax credits as well and rebates. I also tried to include information about air source heat pumps as the most efficient heating and cooling, and electric vehicles, the energy assistance program, different solar options, including community solar and rooftop solar as well. I also did some presentations for the summer sustainability series that Claire mentioned. So I did 2 presentations. One was on home efficiency and renewable energy, and we had 11 people attend that presentation. And that was really focused on what they could do in their own homes and accessing solar. And then I also did a presentation on electric vehicles where there were 24 attendees, and there was a really lively discussion. There were some people there who had electric vehicles and some really great questions asked, and just a really great conversation that came out of that presentation. And then some people ended up at Everything Electric trying out some vehicles in the ride and drive as well, so that was great. Another project that I'm working on that's kind of in progress is the sustainability awards. I had kind of heard from the meeting that we wanted to promote those in some way and kind of share the work that people have done. And so I proposed creating some videos around that. And so we have filmed with 4 of the participants. So St. David's, the resident who had rooftop solar, and then also 2 that aren't pictured here, the rain garden, and also the I'm trying to remember what it's called. Not the high school, the 9 Mile Creek restoration project as well. So we filmed those and are in process of creating those videos to promote the program and really showcase what our residents have been doing. Yeah, so thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Claire. Fantastic presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Kessa? Sorry.
Kessa, I wanted to thank you and applaud your excellent efforts. You are a professional presenter, and you have the ability of taking complex data and putting it into very usable form for people. So as we celebrate our Climate Action Adaptation Plan, you have set the groundwork for us to begin implementing it. It was also a pleasure to work with you on community solar presentation. When we met last fall, you were asking me about community solar, and you had a wealth of knowledge already. So thank you very much. Minnetonka is privileged to have both you and Claire as part of our team, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other thoughts? Commissioner Henry, by all means.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And yeah, thanks, Kessa. Really is fun to have all the youth and enthusiasm and energy and new ideas that you're bringing to the city. So really appreciate that. In terms of data, have you collected anything or looking at the adoption rates of community solar by homeowners or even apartment buildings throughout by quarter, by year? I'd love to be able to share with people that live in the city to say, look at this, your neighbors are adopting this as well.
Yeah, that would be really great data to have. Unfortunately, I don't have that data. Excel might be a good place to look for that. It does get a little tricky, like because people can go through different companies, and it's a little hard to kind of put a handle on analyzing all of that, but I definitely think that would be really great. And I know we do have through Solar United Neighbors, through the rooftop kind of cooperatives, like rooftop solar buys, they have data on that. So, and I was also able to pull data on rooftop solar because it's a little easier to quantify that. So that is data that we have more access to, but it would be great to look further into community solar.
And I can share a little bit on that too, Commissioner Henry and Chair. So there is, I can look at it now, it'll take me a little bit of time, but Xcel Energy does have some information that they share publicly about how many people sign up for their programs and are in there. So we can look at that and see how many people have had solar. We put that into our Green Step Cities information every year. Off the top of my head, I don't have it, but that is something that we have. And the other one for on-site solar, if you're curious, we also can share that by looking at our building permits and see how many we have every year.
Thanks, Drew. And is that data broken down by city as well?
That's only for our city, I apologize. So for our city, we have that. You can look on there. Some of that stuff can be, if they're in the Green Step Cities in Step 5, we can do some comparison then. That's possible. But that'd be sort of the route to do it. But it's available. It's out there. Just have to look a little bit and work with Excel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Another question, Kessa. You had your summer sustainability series, and it looked like most of the meetings happened early afternoon, sometime in the summers. What was your thought process about offering those then? I'm just thinking to attract a wider audience. Maybe we could have had it after work. I mean, there's not school in session in the summertime, but what was your thought about that?
Yes, absolutely. So those were part of the recreation and senior centers kind of program that they put on. So they invited us to come and present, and they were always at the same time, that 1 p.m. slot. So we did have a lot of older residents who came at that time. So that was when we were invited to present for that series. But I definitely hear your point of making sure that as many people as possible can access these kinds of programs. So that might be something in the future to consider, I guess, when we're partnering with them and for other series. So, thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. And in your experience working as you are in the last 9 months, what are some lessons that you think that you've learned that you can share with the city, with us, with everybody else about how to get the word out to a wider audience? It seems like there's a lot of selection bias where people who are interested in energy efficiency, waste reduction, then they seek out avenues, they read the Minnetonka memo, they look at the senior script, and then they go and they actively participate in these things. But there's a lot of people out there that maybe is not top of mind for them, and how can we make it easier for them to have it top of mind? I love your idea about the testimonial videos, and I'm glad that there's 4 in the works, but I'd love to hear other ideas that you have.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like that's the $1 million question with sustainability, right? How do we make it digestible and convenient for people to do and incorporate into their lives? I think one thing I've learned is trying to couple events or show up, like Commissioner Patain mentioned with the swaps, like having them at a different event. Even though I know the swap was like a really popular one that a lot of people went to, but I learned with some of my topics that I was presenting on that is best to try to couple that with, like the farmer's market or other places where people are trying to kind of table at the library or other places where someone might walk by and it might catch their attention. And so I think I was always kind of trying to trying to address that question and figure out, how can I be in more places? Where are the most effective places to be? I think one was doing kind of promotion of events in various places in town, was kind of trying to put flyers up and maybe talk more to people who are in a coffee shop or like in a library or a public space, and then at the farmers market, of course. But I think we can definitely expand where we do that and kind of how we do that, like expanding into the open house where there's a lot of people there, and we someone in the community development staff had this genius idea of these playhouses where kids could come up and like draw on them and interact. And so I feel like that attracted, maybe a different audience. And so, yeah, I think kind of anything where we can kind of reach, a different audience, I think is really helpful. Another project that I did that we'll talk about in a little bit for Earth Month was putting up a presentation in Williston. So I do think our fitness centers and community centers are a valuable way to reach like more people, and maybe people who might not be seeking this information out. But yeah, I definitely want to keep thinking about that question and be inspired by other sustainability commissioners and programs too, which I think we'll kind of get to later in this meeting as well, with kind of looking around at like what other people are doing that has been effective and how do we keep reaching more people. So thank you, that's a great question.
Yeah, appreciate that, Kessa. And this is for Claire as well too, where I really like the idea of what you're doing, where you're integrating your presentations with other regularly scheduled city events. That way it can bring people in from maybe a wider demographic who wouldn't normally think about sustainability issues. So I'd encourage the city and you guys, future Green Corps members, to build on that foundation and do more of that. This is short notice, I know, but the Night Tea Night is coming up, and I'm not sure of the process, but I know that our neighborhood is doing that. I think the leader of each of those groups, they have to apply to the city to say, we're doing a Night Tea Night. And I'm not sure if we have the resources to implement this, but you have lots of good materials. And wouldn't it be great if you could share that with all of the neighborhood captains, and then they could just have a table out and say, hey guys, everybody in my neighborhood, here's some really good information to know. And maybe that way we can reach a wider demographic.
That's a great point. And I actually had a coworker today come up to me and say they had someone asking about materials from the city for that. So hopefully, yes, we should definitely do that.
Good. I know, Drew, that city staff is strapped, but we could tap somebody, maybe even us, to help the mailers or whatever we have to do. I'd love to take some of the materials out to my neighborhood and present that at my neighborhood too. So
I was thinking, Drew, we probably should just give them all a packet of information to share with your neighborhood folks. I am going on Night to Unite, so they're going to give me a packet, right, of information. So it's a great idea. Thank you.
I'd like to add that maybe on the website, maybe there's a PDF of, they can just print it off at home and take it to the Night to Unite.
I'm feverishly writing down notes, so I got it down.
good. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you, Commissioner Henry. Any other questions for Kessa? Commissioner Patain?
Yes, please. I got to get in here as well. So first of all, Commissioner Henry, that is a very good idea. I love the idea of when I feel like Night to Unite, people are already thinking about community. And so why not, when they're thinking about community, like think about how we can better help our community by being more sustainable. So when people are in that mindset, love that idea. So nice one. But also, Kessa, amazing job. Like, y'all have done such amazing work this year. You should be so proud. Like, I was really proud to have you guys out there representing our community, representing our city. I, of course, like I said, took notes. I really appreciated your response to Commissioner Henry's question about what can we do better, like how can we better reach people? And you said that you basically said you tried to meet people where they were. So you went into the community, especially to places where people are already engaging with community. I think that makes a ton of sense. People who are going to their local library are already engaging with their community, and so those people are going to be super receptive to potentially open to like engaging with how they can be more sustainable. People who are going to their community center, people who are going to Williston Gym as opposed to maybe a private gym or to Planet Fitness or whatnot. So I think that's a very, very smart idea, and I love that approach. I think that we should be really mindful of that going forward when we are considering how we can best reach the community and just meeting them where they are, because I know that people are really receptive to our tabling even when they're coming to the farmers market, and just are more open to just like us talking to them about home energy squad visits and whatnot. So I think that's excellent response. I also wanted to say, great job with the home energy squad visits. I know it can be sometimes challenging to explain to people like what exactly they're going to do when they're coming into your house and they're going to do this, and there's it's a whole thing. And so great job getting those numbers up, and like obviously it's such a great thing that is being offered. So I love that. I always love the everything electric event. It is always scheduled on a horrible date for my calendar. Drew, fix this. Last year, first day of school. This year, I had other plans I couldn't get out of. I was really upset. But anyways, that's okay. But I was really upset. Anyways, but I did really enjoy the, I can't remember what the seminar was called, but the seminar that you had about the electric vehicles. It was like the perfect marriage of education, and then we also got to speak with an actual electric vehicle user. I was sold. I wanted to buy a car. I was ready to buy my electric vehicle when I left. That woman walked me through the process of Tesla and how I could just go and buy. I was ready to turn in my vehicle. It was amazing. No, seriously, it was absolutely fantastic. I got so much information about how far electric vehicles have come. So I appreciate the educational component of it, and then being able to transition to talking to someone who's actually using the vehicle on a day-to-day basis, and understanding like the true challenges that you might experience when you're having one. And also, I think when you have a variety of different like users, you can go up and find someone who maybe is going to be the type of user that you are. So someone who's like works from home, or someone who's a mom, and so just see what type of like someone who's going to use the vehicle in the same way that you are, and might experience the same challenges that you might have, and so they can address a lot of your questions more than maybe a salesperson can at a dealership. So excellent concept. I hope we do it again. It was phenomenal. So great job with that. And then finally, always going to be near and dear to my heart, a spreadsheet. You know, every single time, it's just I love it. So I think community solar, it's foreign. What is it? Nobody understands it. And so taking that information and consolidating it and putting it in one place for people and saying, hey, I've done all the hard part for you. Here's all the information that you need access to so that you can be able to use this. And I've created this tool for you, and then just making it accessible to people. That is phenomenal. So I think that's such a great thing to be able to leave us with. So thank you so much for your work. That's awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner Patain. Any other comments? If not, Kessa, I can't thank you enough. Claire, you too. You guys both deserve all the accolades that you have received tonight. You've both done unbelievably great work. I hope that we can sustain those efforts going forward, because I think you guys have set a very, very high bar. You too, Drew. And I will echo what Commissioner Patain said. I had most of my summer open, but the one day that you guys picked, the Everything Electric event, I was in northern Minnesota. I couldn't change that. I couldn't change my schedule. And of course, last year, after scrupulously avoiding COVID, I caught COVID. So I've been 1 for 3. So I'm not sure who will be sitting in your seat in the near future, but I hope to coordinate my schedule with them so that I will be available to attend the Everything Electric event. You guys have done absolutely fantastic work. I think we have a lot to be proud of your hard work, and I'm hoping that other folks in other communities are noticing what Minnetonka has accomplished. But it's been your hard work has done that. Your drive, your energy, your enthusiasm, and your creativity have really put us on the map. So thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate it. With that, I'm going to go on. Since no one has registered to comment tonight, I'm going to open and close the public input portion for this agenda topic, and I want us to move on to item 5B. Mr. Ingvelson, go right ahead.
Yeah, before we move on to this one, I just want to note that I have on my notes here to get inside of both Commissioner Patain and Brian Golub's personal agendas, to schedule everything around that, just to make sure that's clear. I'll be getting in there and maybe putting some stuff in there too.
That's accurate.
Like watching my children. Anyways, we'll move on.
Thank you.
Earth Day review. So it's been a while since Earth Day. That was back in April, but we were meant to talk about this back in May. So it's maybe a little bit back on your mind a while ago. April's a long time for me, but we're just going to go over some things that we did, and some things were new. There's a follow-up from what we've done in previous years. Some things were old. Some things were things we've done previously, sort of continuing on that, but there are also some newer things that we did. So first one that we do is we have a Sustainable Minnetonka page. Everyone knows about that, and we have a lot of things there, and if you haven't subscribed to it, make sure you do. I think everyone has, but if you haven't, make sure you're on there. But something we did last year and we've done this year too is make a specific Earth Day page, and the goal of that is to really sort of narrow down some of the information. We have a lot of info on our Sustainable Minnetonka page. It can be a lot when someone gets there, so this is more of a way the city does it to narrow that down to specific things people can do right now or during April. They're focused on Earth Day. So that's something we did this year. We've done it in previous years, so that was something not as new, but something we did do that was rather new. I will hand over to Kessa to talk about the Wilson Fitness Center display, which was a brand new initiative.
Yeah, so I know we had wanted to do something around Earth Day, and so I really I was inspired by Electrify Everything and wanted to create something that would be visual and interactive for residents and community members around energy efficiency, electrification, and renewable energy. And so what we came up with was a series of posters which included basic steps for kind of, you start out, you want to become more energy efficient, like what do you do? So it was like step 1, do an energy audit. And then step 2, start to electrify everything. So once you're efficient, like get those electric appliances. And then step 3, access solar or renewable energy in some way. And so we wanted to make sure there were resources that were available. So we came up with this idea of having these folders with the flyers for the actual programs. And then, this easy kind of flow of like step 1, step 2, step 3, like this is how you can approach it. And then we also wanted to make it more interactive and kind of so you could see residents actually doing this. So I conducted 7 interviews with residents in the community about things they had done. So that included someone who had an induction range, someone who had an electric vehicle, someone who had installed an air source heat pump, someone who installed geothermal, someone who had rooftop solar, someone who had community solar, and someone who had participated in an energy audit. And so this was kind of like personal stories of residents who said, I did this thing, this is how it went for me, this is why I'd recommend it for other people, to kind of hopefully get more connection there in that personal story and like inspiration of like, oh, I can see myself doing this. So that actually portion was up in Williston, and then that interview portion was also up in the community center and the marsh as well. We didn't have room for the whole display in all 3 spots, but wanted to kind of bring that to more places in the vein of kind of trying to maybe capture a larger audience and kind of inspire people. And then the tree section that you can see on the right picture, that was to try to make it more interactive too, of like someone actually creating a goal and writing it down and saying, this is something I can do after looking at these steps. And so we did have, some good responses to that. People were inspired. Some people kind of had, different things that they were thinking about, but there were definitely some people who kind of had a specific, like, oh, I'm going to make a goal around this. So that was great. I'll pass it along. Oh, I guess it's me again. Okay. So we, Claire and I also participated in the Ridgedale Library Earth Day Fair, which was the first year that they did this event. So they invited us. We had a working relationship with 2 librarians there over the year who are very passionate about this topic, and invited us to come and table and like participate in their events and do different interactive things kind of over the year. So that was a great relationship to have, and they invited us to this event. There were over 100 people who came to the event, and it was tables set up with a bunch of different organizations. So like Hennepin County was there, various nonprofits. There were high schoolers from the Minnetonka High School Club around sustainability. There were kind of the park districts. So a lot of different organizations with, different activities. A lot of families came through. And so Claire had her great resources on organics recycling. And then I mostly talked to people about solar, community solar, rooftop solar, and ended up scheduling some meetings like after to kind of follow up with some people. So that was kind of what people happened to be interested in, and a good place to connect on that. And then I also did this mini windmill activity with kids to show how wind can create energy. So that was a fun event.
So if I can add one thing to Kessa's, is that the Wilson Fitness Center display, that was something that was in the Sustainability Commission's work plan. So something that was in there. It didn't have a whole lot of guidelines on it. I'll talk more about that later. But there wasn't a whole lot of guidelines, but Kessa sort of took this and made it her own as we handed that off and showed her what the commission was vaguely looking for in that work plan. And then over to the Earth Day proclamation. This is something we've done before. So we have done a Earth Day proclamation for the City Council, have done it, and every year it has a theme. So previous year was Invest in Our Planet, and this year is Planet versus Plastics. So that theme was really focused on the health risks of plastics that are out in our environment, showing that this is not a local issue but also a global issue. So it's not really localized, it's also globalized. And then also really knowing the fact of this theme was that actions need by everyone. It's individuals all the way down up to corporations. So really focusing on that being a large issue that a lot of people and a lot of folks are going to have to work on together to address reducing the amount of plastic out in our environment. And something that we did with that, and actually I'll say Claire led the way with this, was Hennepin County's Plastic Free Challenge. So that's something we did earlier in the year. That was back in February. But it really have hit that part of this theme that we have for the Earth Day proclamation of reducing plastics, that the city has done this several years in a row. I can't say the exact amount, but I know it's at least 3, where we've promoted this on our website, promoted this through various mediums, to let people know that there's this challenge that Claire talked about previously, where people can learn how to reduce their plastic. And again, it's a free program. Anyone can join it. So it really fit nicely this year with that theme that we did back in February. So that is all of the sort of updates we have for Earth Day. I'll turn it back over to the chair and commission to ask any questions that they might have about how those programs worked.
Any questions for Drew regarding item 5C, our Earth Day issues? Commissioner Henry.
Thanks, Chair. And this could be for you, Drew, or for anybody in the Kessa or Claire. But when you're presenting about this, was there any thought about reaching out to schools, particularly on Earth Day? It's school still in session, and it's a tangent, but I was thinking about back in the day when there was this push to get people to buckle up, and there was a initiative through the schools where they had these stickers, and it had dear blank, and then the children could put their mom or dad or whatever, dear mom and dad, and then it says, I love you and I care about you and I want you to not die and I want you to buckle up. So then they took the sticker and then they put it in the visor in the car. So it's positive pressure by the children to have the parents take action. And I really saw a lot of movement on that one. Before, maybe the adults just said, I don't need seatbelts. I mean, it was ingrained in the culture where a lot of cars didn't even have seatbelts until the 1960s. So I'd love to see some integration, some collaboration between the city, us at the Sustainability Commission, Green Corps members, to do more outreach to schools to say, here's what we're doing, and then somehow let the children transmit that information into the adults. I don't know if it's possible if we have the resources, but just an idea.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I'll take that one. Yeah, it's nothing we did this year specifically with schools on this, but we do a lot of outreach with the schools. I know Chair Golub and I have visited Hopkins in previous years. This year, something we do standing is I go to, and it's not focused on plastics, but this year that's on our screen, go to Minnetonka High School to the Vantage program, and their other program too. I forget the name at this moment, but I go there and I talk to them about development, to teach them a little bit about how sustainability is built into the city, looking at tree reduction, stormwater drainage, things like that. I think what you're probably looking at is probably younger ages, maybe starting that there, but that's definitely something we can write down and always look at a way that we can maybe build this into it. But we connect with schools in a lot of different ways, but I think maybe a more concerted effort on some of this would make sense.
It's a really open suggestion, but even if a unit in earth science or social studies, somewhere like that, because it has direct applicability to them, their neighborhood, their town, and just let them know what the city of Minnetonka is doing. They'd be pretty interested in seeing actually tangible things that are happening, to learn about it and to share that information.
Commissioner Henry, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but when I was in grade school, the federal government had a very strong smoking cessation program, and Diana's nodding in agreement. And the focus was kids and the horrible things that can happen to your lungs. And I remember seeing a pink lung next to a black lung, and that was very educational for a young child, for many, many children. And you would go home and you would talk to your parents. My father at the time was a very heavy smoker. Most of their friends were. And if the kids are on their parents' case, they have a tendency, the parents might actually listen to their kids and say, you know what, you're right. And I think some behaviors probably were modified and changed. Good behaviors that people stopped smoking. So it's analogous to this. The kids can help educate their parents, and their parents might say, you know what, that's a good point. So I think it would behoove us to pursue that going forward. So it is an excellent idea. Any other questions for Drew? No. Okay. With that, once again, no one has registered to comment, so I'm going to open and close the public input portion for this agenda topic. This is informational, so we're going to move on to item 5D, and I'll take it back to Drew. Thank you.
And I'm going to keep kicking it back to Claire. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now be talking about plastic bag disincentives and reusable bag promotions. First, I wanted to chat about Minnesota's ban on banning bags. In May of 2017, the Minnesota legislature statute passed prohibiting cities and counties in Minnesota from banning bags which included paper, plastic, or reusable bags. The purpose of this law was to provide stability for businesses and customers, standardization in waste management and manufacturing. This law came after the city of Minneapolis wanted to ban plastic bags, and the state said you cannot do that, so they passed this law. And so after that, the city of Minneapolis implemented a fee on plastic bags instead. In March of 2024, a bill was introduced to repeal this 2017 law, but was not adopted. I know that it's still, many legislators are still very passionate about this, so I would anticipate seeing it come back, but this is where we're at right now. Next, I wanted to chat about Minnesota cities with carryout bag fees. Like I said, Minneapolis has a fee amount of 5 cents. This was effective as of October 2021. It was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but started in 2021. A carryout bag Minneapolis defines as a plastic, compostable paper, and reusable bag that is provided by a retailer. The city of Duluth also has a fee amount of $5 cents, excuse me. Effective date was also October of 2021. The city of Duluth defines their carryout bags as plastic and compostable bags. Paper bags are not included in this fee. And as of just this month, the city of Edina has a carryout bag fee of 5 cents. They define carryout bags as plastic, compostable, paper, or reusable bags provided by retailers. So very similar to the city of Minneapolis. And continuing on, carryout bag legislation outside of Minnesota. There are 12 states in the United States that have bans on plastic bags, or carryout bags, excuse me. Some are not just for plastic bags, but this includes California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii. The state of Hawaii does not technically have a plastic bag ban, but all of its counties do. So by default, it is included in this list. The state of Maine, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. I also did some research on states that actually have preemption laws on local carryout bag regulations. Minnesota is included in this list. I'd also like to note that in my report I did not include Nebraska, but after further research I discovered that they are included in this list. It is 19 states. Commissioner Patain will appreciate that I made a spreadsheet actually of all of the states that have or have not this carryout bag regulation. So I've got my list of the 12 states that have some sort of plastic bag ban. I'd like to note that it is the state of New Jersey, I believe it's the only state actually that has a ban on both plastic and paper bags. So both are banned in that state. A lot of the other states are plastic bag ban plus a fee on paper bags, and some states are just a plastic bag ban. But moving on, like I said, the preemptive laws for carryout bag regulations are 19 states based on my research: Arkansas, Arizona, Florida, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin. A lot of these states have laws stating that there can be no restrictions, bans, fees, any sort of charges for carryout bags in any of the local jurisdictions within the state. What I found is that Minnesota is actually the only state that only restricts bans. Our state allows fees and charges, as evident by our 3 cities in the state that have those fees, but all the other states have laws stating that there cannot be any bans or fees. So, continuing on with these preemptive laws, I wanted to chat about why these are in place. A lot of the explanations that I found were the hardships on businesses and people, difficult for people who cannot afford canvas bags. There has been the reasoning of confusion and different differences between cities and counties of what different laws are. Plastic bags are generally cheaper to produce, and there are also some unintended consequences of bag bans. That was some research I was doing today. There have been some case studies done about states that have passed plastic bag bans and experienced some unintended consequences. For example, in the state of New Jersey, when they passed the ban of single-use plastic and paper bags, plastic consumption went from 53 million pounds of plastic before the ban to 151 million pounds This was because most stores switched to heavier reusable shopping bags, which were made with non-woven polypropylene, which uses 15 times more plastic and generates more than 5 times the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. So greenhouse gas emissions actually rose in the state of New Jersey, and a lot of people were buying a lot more garbage bags to replace the plastic bags that they were not receiving for free. Paper bags, I also want to note that are typically require more energy to produce, and there are studies done on reusable bags that can carry bacteria and viruses. So these are all some reasoning behind why a lot of these states have these preemptive laws in place. Continuing on to private initiatives, where there are plenty of states that are not allowing bans on plastic bags, but many private organizations have their own policies. Costco, Sam's Club, and BJ's Wholesale Club do not offer plastic bags. They offer used merchandise boxes from their shipping. Whole Foods also does not offer plastic bags, and they also have a 10-cent discount incentive per reusable bag brought in by a customer. IKEA is another organization that does not offer plastic bags. Aldi and Goodwill also do not offer plastic bags. I believe Goodwill sometimes offers used plastic bags, but they do not purchase their own brand new plastic bags. Target is an organization, as well as Trader Joe's, that offer 5-cent incentives, discounts per reusable bag brought in by a customer. And so I just wanted to continue on with what the city of Minnetonka can be doing to help with plastic consumption reduction, continue education and outreach, continue creating City of Minnetonka teams for the Plastic Free Challenge, and promoting the annual Zero Waste Challenge, continuing with social media and presentations about plastic reduction. Another free Hennepin County resource is a little Remember the Bags sticker that we can be passing out at local events. The sticker is the little image that's shown on this slide. It is a window cling that you can put in your cars, so you remember to grab your bags before you leave your car. Another program to consider is starting a bag share program, where we would designate a local location for community members to take or give a reusable bag. It's essentially kind of like picture a coat rack or something like that, where you can just hang reusable bags and anyone can just take or grab one as much as as they need. The city could also consider free reusable bags at local events per funding, and just continuing research on plastic bag incentives and disincentives. That is why I wanted to provide this information for you today, just so you are kind of up to date on what's going on in Minnesota as well as the country. I'd be happy to provide the little spreadsheet I made, because I also included links to every single ordinance that all of these states have. It doesn't include all 50 states. Some of the states just simply don't have any legislation about bans or preemptive laws on bans, but these were the main ones that I focused on, were the ones that had bans on plastic bag bans, as well as just bans on plastic bags. That's all I had. Thank you.
Claire, thank you for an excellent presentation. I ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions for you. I know I have one or two that I don't want to forget, but I'll defer to my fellow commissioners first. Anyone have a question or two for Claire? If not, Commissioner Matane, go ahead.
Sorry.
No.
Chair, you know I have a question or two. So really quickly, thank you. Excellent presentation. Of course, I want the spreadsheet. Immediately, yes. Thank you. No, that was very, very, those numbers, that blew me away. New Jersey, and I was like, did she say the right number? And then you doubled down and said they were like, actually, we're going to make it thicker. We're going to make the bags thicker for you guys. What? That was insane. Wow. That I have to sit with that. Wow. That was amazing. Thank you though for that. That statistic was just wow, amazing. Thank you for that. Did you? And I can't. That was a lot of information. I was trying to take notes for this one. Did you discuss at all? Was there any numbers or feedback? What was my question regarding the cities that have implemented the fees? Or anywhere, is there a reduce? Did they see their numbers reduce as far as the usage of the plastic bags when they implement the fees?
Yeah, unfortunately, Minneapolis and Duluth have not been keeping track of that data.
Okay.
But the city of Edina is, they do plan on keeping track of that information. So it would be merchant sales, so how much the retailers are buying plastic bags. So that would be the information that they would start collecting. But unfortunately, I could not find much information from Minneapolis or Duluth, which would have been nice since they've been doing it for a while, but couldn't find anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine, and I can look, I imagine you would hope that there would be some type of reduction, of course. So that was, of course, very fascinating, very interesting. Additionally, I will say, on a personal note, I love me a good reusable bag. I think we should start gifting them to one another. I had planned to get some for my family as a present for Christmas. I know that I don't know why you're laughing. Miss, what is Julie's last name, y'all? Miss, can someone help me, please? Miss Wishnack, I don't know why you're laughing. I think that's a wonderful gift. The insulated ones are especially nice, personally. Costco has some?
They have an insulated bag.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. But I think those are especially nice Christmas gifts, and I had planned to give some to my family as gifts because I think that we should start gifting those more often personally. So I think for the usable bags, just so that we should just on a personal note, so that we should do those. Additionally, I think that if you could take this back to the city, Mr. Ingleson, if we should start also if you know how you guys are so nice to give us gifts every year when we go to the boards and commissions dinner. We got the wonderful oven mitt. I love that thing. We got the 10 this year with the reusable utensils and reusable bags. Okay, and I don't know if you all get gifts for Christmas. Or the holidays, excuse me, for just the holidays in general. Reusable bags for all the city staff. So just a suggestion, but thank you. Wonderful presentation, I appreciated it.
Commissioner Henry, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, I concur with Commissioner Patane, where why not give reusable bags? I like them, and I have to second the notion about the insulated bags too. When you go to, let's say, Wisconsin to get some cheese, then it's going to melt in your car unless you have some way to keep it cool. So they have myriad uses, and I think it's a great, thoughtful gift. So I plan on doing the same as well. One of the questions I had, and it was really eye-opening when you told the cautionary tale of New Jersey banning both plastic and paper bags, and I had an idea that making paper bags was a little bit more energy intensive. Of course, you don't have the negative side effects afterwards, where you don't have paper bags causing huge trash pileups in the ocean like some plastic bags do. But why not find a middle ground somewhere? And did you do any research on plastic bags made of compostable material, corn-based or other organic-based plastic bags? It seems like if it's less energy intensive to make and if it breaks down so it doesn't have any lasting effects. Well, that's the first question. And then second thing is, do you have any ideas about how we can push demand? I know that preemptively Minnesota legislature put in, say, well, we're not going to allow you to do this, but maybe we can entice people to generate more demand for these. To me, it just seems like it's extremely reasonable, and who would ever object against compostable plastic bags? It just seems to make sense. So I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't have a chance to do a lot of research on the growing technology of future bags that might be, made out of plant material. But that is something that a lot of these case studies have recommended, that instead of, plastic bag bans, we start offering more suitable and sustainable, affordable alternatives. This presentation was kind of given to me last week, so I didn't have much time to prepare for that, but I do agree that these, I think alternatives are a better option, because if you place a ban on something that, like in New Jersey, there's gonna, people are gonna, it's hard to change behavior just by saying stop, you can't do that, because they're gonna find, they're gonna buy more garbage bags instead. So offering an alternative is definitely a great solution. Yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I did want to note the number of plastic bags did go down by 60% in New Jersey. And so I'm assuming that was the case in Minneapolis and Duluth as well, that it definitely went down. But in a lot of cases, the use of paper bags went up, which also has its own negative side effects of, the energy consumption involved. But yes, I think looking into more sustainable alternatives and sustainable plastic bag manufacturing is definitely a great future. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, sure. And I understand you don't have all the answers, but in just presenting this presentation to us, then it can generate more ideas. Drew's writing these things down, so we'll have the staying power, hopefully, to answer some of these questions and get these figured out. But I salute the city of Edina to actually put some evidence-based research on the efficacy of their programs behind it. And I would encourage, if anybody from the city of Duluth or Minneapolis is listening, please do the same. I think it really has a big benefit to do that. So thanks a lot for the thoughtful response to it.
Yeah, I did. I believe it's linked in the first page of my report for this. There was a link for the city of Edina's staff report on this before they implemented this ordinance, and their staff actually did not recommend this ordinance initially. They didn't think it was going to be enough. They didn't think it was going to change a lot of behaviors, but it ended up going through, so we'll have to see what happens as it continues. It's only been less than a month so far, and it's great that they're collecting this data now, so let's hope we can learn some great information from them.
Have you heard of any cities or anybody that has done any compostable plastic initiatives of the type that we're talking about here? And if not, I'm wondering why nobody has done that. It's a rhetorical question. I know you don't have the answers to it.
I have not.
Yeah, and Commissioner Henry, I have not either, and I would bet a lot of that's going to be cost related. They're significantly more expensive, those compostable bags, versus your plastic one, obviously. So my guess, at least without doing any research on it, is probably pretty cost prohibitive for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm. And that screams out for justification for the increased cost. And if the cost right now to the consumer is zero, but the cost to the earth is all the negative side effects, then we should be able to account for that somehow. And public information campaign, I know I'm thinking a little bit too large for what the commission is, but there are ways to overcome the cost objection. And I think a lot of people would be responsive to that. As a side note too, Drew, if you could, I'd love to see that spreadsheet, and if you could just email all the commissioners on their City of Minnetonka emails, that would be great. Thank you.
Commissioner Meyer?
Claire, wonderful presentation. Thank you. I did want to ask both the fellow commissioners and Drew if we have a plan going forward for Minnetonka to readdress the question of a plastic bag disincentive, following the model of Edina, giving Edina half a year to a year to collect data and reassess that, as well as Minneapolis and Duluth. Could we look at this again next summer?
So, Commissioner Meyer and Chair, That question I can definitely answer. So this actually was in our work plan for this year. I know this question of looking at different ways to disincentives, incentives for bags was something that was brought up during our work plan last year. So that's what I would say is keep that, and we're writing things down and we're keeping this noted. I would say when we come around again to look at our work plan, someone I have a feeling will probably note that in our conversations. So that's something we could further look at. And I think that's a good point to what we look at. I know the sustainability coordinator at the city of Edina fairly well. So that's something we definitely could reach out to them to see what have they learned, what's been issues, and we could put in our work plan for next year to do continued research or see what sort of step the commission wants to do with that. But that would be the correct, appropriate place is to put in the work plan again and sometime next year to reassess it.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Claire, excellent presentation. Very, very, very interesting. Great information. One comment and then one question. I'll start with my question first. Minneapolis and Duluth will start in October 2021. Excuse me. I'm not going to ask you any questions about the money that was collected or any reduction in the usage. What I'm interested in, if you even know, is how did the city council address this? Was there pushback from residents when this was promulgated? X percent of people said, hey, we support, in the public, did the people support this, or were they opposed to this? And was it a contentious discussion point? Do you know? Do we know? I'm just curious.
Yes, there was some very passionate people against a fee or a ban. A lot of people liked the convenience of having a plastic bag available at any time. Many people actually do reuse these plastic bags. They use them as garbage bags, which is why I mentioned that garbage bag sales did go up in other states that had bans. So yes, that was something that definitely was. I know in Minneapolis, I can't remember off the top of my head about Duluth, but there were people who were even interviewed by news organizations when this was happening, saying, I like having the plastic bag. I use it as a trash bag, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, obviously it passed in Duluth, Minneapolis, and Edina. So the political will must have been there to do this, which I'm glad to hear, because they could have caved in with a concerted effort from the public saying, no, we don't want that to happen. So that's positive. Also, just to echo one of the other comments, we have a reusable bag from Trader Joe's. My wife keeps it in her car. It's in the trunk or in the back seat on the floor all the time. So you can't drive, you can't go there without forgetting it at home, saying, oh, I didn't have that. We also have a large reusable bag from a company that unfortunately no longer exists, but it was called Midwest Mountaineering. Some of you probably have heard of it. It's large and it works. So we have those, we use those, and we've all basically tabled and we've given away lots of lights. It's just a thought. I don't know if we have any resources for it, and I don't know how much one of those reusable bags would cost, but going forward, perhaps rather than, in addition to some of the other items we give away, we might actually have a X number of reusable bags that we could give away at a tabling event or another activity going forward. So it's just something to think about, because I think it would be difficult for people to say we don't have space for it in our car. Even if they have a small car, you need a container. It doesn't take any space. So I think people would be open and receptive to doing that. So just one thought. So that was my only comment. And once again, I want to thank you very much. Do any of my other commissioners have any? Commissioner?
I guess just
Yes.
kind of piggybacking off this idea, I mean, what have you found in terms of, if any, the use of alternative compostable material to replace the plastic, at least? So maybe to your point, like a corn-based or another, even if it was cotton and it was like repurposed. But did any of that sort of bubble up? Has any of that sort of taken hold in any of these communities, and how have they used those and repurposed those or processed them?
I didn't find a lot just from my research on what I was looking up. I hadn't seen a lot come up about plant-based or compostable bags. I did read that some, like I believe Target tries to buy all of their, like have all their plastic bags be mostly made from recycled plastic, but that's kind of the only information that I found. I definitely can do more research for all of you and get back to you on that, because I am also curious, and it's definitely something that, I think it's information that everyone can benefit from knowing about, and so yeah, I can get back to you on that for sure.
Thank you, Claire. Any other questions for Claire? If not, I'm going to open and close the public input portion for this agenda topic, and we want to move to item 5E. Kessa, I believe you have the floor. Thank you.
Yes. So this came out of kind of that question of how do we increase our engagement and leadership in the community of Minnetonka, having residents step up and ways to organize that. So I took a look at some different communities that are local and also kind of what's happening statewide, nationwide. And then Commissioner Meyer also found some great resources that she's going to share about as well. So the first one that had come up before was Minneapolis Neighborhood Green Teams. So that's in the city of Minneapolis. It's organized by 3 nonprofit organizations, the Minneapolis Climate Action, the FRAYEO, and the RCC. And so these organizations are kind of collaborating to kind of host the green teams, and they are currently not very, the green teams are currently not very active from what I could find. So the last meeting I could find was from 2023, and I did try to reach out to staff at multiple of these nonprofits, and I haven't heard back yet. I didn't reach out, there wasn't a ton of lead time on this, so they still could get back to me, but I'm not really sure kind of what the neighborhood green teams are doing at this point. Back in 2023, they were focusing on the climate resilient hubs that were being created in Minneapolis. So another initiative that I took a look at was in St. Louis Park. This is their Recycling Champions program. So an incentive to basically create community leaders on recycling. So the way their program works is the Recycling Champions complete a 2-hour training and then are basically committing to sharing the information in some way. So they don't have to commit to like a certain number of hours or anything after, but kind of having that commitment of sharing that knowledge if they go through this training. So at the very least sharing it with like their own connections, but then a lot of these recycling champions go on to present at events such as National Night Out, block parties, those kind of things like we were discussing earlier with our night out. And then they basically just report back to the city like the work that they're doing. So that's that program. I also looked into Frogtown Green, which is in St. Paul. So it's a grassroots neighborhood group that started in, I believe, 2012. And it was basically passionate neighbors that got together and wanted to kind of work on sustainability efforts in the Frogtown neighborhood. So the first thing that they did is they created a park, which was a major achievement. And then they've created some organic farms since then. And the organization has grown into actually having staff and then volunteers as well. And they do a lot of different things, as you can see with the planting trees. They run like summer workshops, and then they also manage community gardens. So I guess that's a model of kind of passionate neighbors getting together and then creating an organization. And then a national program that I also found that seemed like a really good model was the Sustainable Neighborhoods program. So they focused on a lot of different areas, including energy, air, water, land, and people. So a lot of aspects of sustainability, and they currently encompass, I believe it's 3 cities in Colorado, and then Sedona, Arizona, and Portland, Maine. And basically the way this organization works is they have the neighborhoods who join will put on events and workshops, run different clubs, and implement different kinds of action items, and then they'll gain recognition from city officials and become basically a sustainable neighborhood, or then they'll reach like outstanding neighborhood for the efforts that they've done. And so it's a way of kind of encouraging neighborhoods to get together and do these different kinds of actions. And this organization, I believe, would be something we could connect with in the future if we wanted to learn more about either joining or just like ways that they've kind of worked on this model and created this model. I also reached out to the Green Step Cities staff as well to see what kind of resources they might have. This is going into the addendum now, if that's helpful. And so they pointed me towards some resources that they had on best practices around planning, decision making, and measuring outcomes, which could be applied to some kind of neighborhood program in terms of how that program was created and kind of the parameters around that model of like how would it be best to kind of make decisions about the projects and then kind of measure that. So that could be a helpful resource in that process. I also looked into in Eagan, they have an academy called the Sustainable Eagan Academy, which is a really cool program that the Green Step Cities staff let me know about. And so what they do is it's 60 to 90-minute sessions in the months of January through May. And so people can participate in multiple of these sessions, and then they'll actually become like a certified member, basically. And it's anyone high school or older who wants to participate, any residents. And the topics range from waste reduction to tax credits, water quality, green yards. So they kind of cover a lot of different sustainability topics, and residents who participate get to choose what sessions they go to, and then they become certified. So this is an interesting model in terms of increasing education and maybe leadership then in sustainability within a community. I also reached out to 2 communities, St. Anthony Village and then also Columbia Heights. I didn't hear back from Columbia Heights yet, but St. Anthony Village got back to me, and these are communities that have just very active citizens as well in their sustainability efforts. And so the St. Anthony Village Sustainability Coordinator pointed me towards a citizen group called Citizens for Sustainability that had been formed in the community initially from neighbors as well. And they started in 2013, so they've been around for a while. But they host monthly meetings and have hosted a lot of different events in the community. So they do park cleanups, climate expos, electric vehicle car shows, and sustainability fairs. So they've done a lot over the years. They have an event calendar on their website where they also put up like kind of neighboring community events, and then also have very welcoming kind of, you know, you can always join our meetings, and they also have a Facebook page where they post their meeting agendas and everything. So it's a very active citizen group. And then I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Meyer to share about 3 other opportunities that she researched and kind of different initiatives. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to preface this with my passion for the concept of green teams, neighborhood grassroots spaces. With our Climate Action Adaptation Plan, robust plan, we've got an excellent single-page or double-page resident action list that people can look at. So we've got that great foundation, but the implementation piece, which we have before us, is a huge task to communicate with everyone. So I see this, as Kessa was saying, a pentagon with 5 stages: benchmarking, recruiting leaders, educating, facilitating projects, and then reporting and celebrating the progress. And so we're at that benchmark phase, and I took a look at other communities to see what they have done as well. And this also ties in with a program like Nextrex, where we may be looking for additional volunteers to continue and to develop some additional programs based on our Climate Action Adaptation Plan. Plymouth has a very simple online form to volunteer in about 20 different areas, and as you can see, in 2022 they had over 1,800 volunteers, which and 23,000 hours in 1 year, which comes down to about 10 hours per person. And it wasn't all in sustainability, but it did include those areas. So I know that in talking with neighbors, many people are interested in getting involved. And I think by providing volunteer opportunities, it actually helps to implement our goals. Looking at Eden Prairie, they are working with each individual citizen, and they have a citizen champion that people can, a designation that people can work towards. It starts with an integrative map that identifies solar potential for each household, as well as action items that each household can take. And then it's also a reporting tool so that it can all be done online, which is very efficient from a staff perspective. And then that data, people can earn either gold, silver, or bronze award. Starting with something like that, we could morph into those individuals becoming leaders in their neighborhood. Hennepin County Recycling Ambassadors previously were called Master Recyclers. And this program provides education over 6 sessions, including hands-on recycling tour, education for the educators, and part of their program requires that each of the participants provide 30 hours of volunteer, and it can be anywhere within Hennepin County. There are approximately 20 or 30 per session quarterly, so there may be a pool of 100 people per year, and certainly many of them would be from Minnetonka. We might be able to, and I have the contact information to reach out to them if we have volunteer needs. And then Edina, after passing their climate action plan, they developed a toolkit, which they called Cap in a Box. And this was educational for people to roll out to neighborhood groups or community groups or faith groups. And they had the flyers, invitations, project ideas, the the background that was utilized. It's now been archived, so I don't think they're utilizing that program. I didn't speak with anyone, but it certainly seemed to be helpful in their first year after the Climate Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Any other questions or comments for Kessa? If not, Matt, do you have one?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Chair. Just one idea, and a few years ago, I took the Citizens Academy for the City of Minnetonka, and we did an 8-week program. We learned about fire department, police, public works, and everything else, and I'd love to see sustainability and all that integrated into the Citizens Academy. You're nodding your head, Kess. It sounds like, have you thought about that before, and is there any integration in the works?
No, not that I'm aware of, but maybe Mr. Ingleson has something to say on that, but I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, Commissioner Henry and Chair. We haven't had anything with that in particular. That option hasn't something we've brought up. That's something we could talk about as a staff level, how that could be integrated in there. So definitely thought. One thing I wanted to add too, just as we were having this conversation about volunteerism, Minnetonka has a very strong volunteerism. If we weren't aware, on minnetonkamn.gov/volunteer, there are opportunities for folks to volunteer. We don't have any specific with sustainability at this moment. So something to think about. I think we talked about work plan later before. So something we could think about for next year to plan that out. But if you go to that page there, we have over 1,000. We know there's over 1,000 Minnetonka residents. A lot of those are in natural resources and habitat restoration. We have a very large volunteer list for that, but also public safety, recreation activities, senior citizens, and also the Burwell House tour. So if anyone hasn't seen that, that's definitely somewhere to look and see if someone's looking for volunteerism right now before anything's sort of put in there specifically sustainability. But just something to note, that is something the city has at this moment.
I'd also like to thank Commissioner Meyer too for the hard work she did on that presentation, and it's really, I think it's going to be well received. Personally, I look at these programs like the Recycling Ambassadors, other programs where you can incentivize people and then recognize them for the hard work that they do. I think whenever anybody gets recognized, then they appreciate that, and they're more apt to share what they've learned with other people too. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned, what we can do with our volunteer base in Minnetonka, and cook up some programs here to get the word out with all that we're talking about tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, I echo Commissioner Henry's comments, Commissioner Meyer. I think it was excellent to have this. It's topical, it's useful, and I think we should definitely all familiarize ourselves with the information that you put together for us. I think it's a great effort. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts or comments for item 5E? If not, I'm going to open and close the public input portion for this agenda topic, which concludes agenda item 5, which is our agenda items. 6 is a report from staff.
Yes, I can take that one. Thank you, Chair. So the first thing, we have 5 different things to go through. You can see on your page those different items. I'll hop right into the first one, Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. We've talked quite a bit about that here tonight, but I don't think we ever had an opportunity to dive back into it after it was approved. So for those of you, I think everyone here is probably aware, that was approved on April 22nd on Earth Day. So it was very timely that it just happened to be a city council meeting that day, and it was right when we were finishing it up. So it was a nice full circle finish to it. Just so some quick stats for everyone to know in case you have questions about it. It was about an 18-month process. That's a very long project process. That's easily the longest I've done in my career. So that was one part about it. It was a lot of thought put into it, I suppose. Another thing to note is community feedback. We had over 850 people respond to the city in some way, shape, or form. Some of those were through surveys. Some of those were through myself personally going out and just hitting the ground all over. If you were at any city community event In the month of September, I was probably there somewhere. It was quite a busy time. So visiting apartment buildings, visiting farmers markets, visiting the beaches too. I did have a beach day in there, so I can't complain about that. But going to Shady Oak Beach. So a lot of different ways that the community had an opportunity to collect feedback. And I know speaking with our consultant LHB who worked on this, they were very impressed with that amount of feedback that we got. Something else to note is, and we've talked about this too, is this plan is a little different than a lot of the other ones that you see in the metro area. This one, a big goal that we had were really two things. The first goal was to make sure we heard from people that we maybe don't typically hear from. So I think that's something we really pushed hard, reaching out to the BIPOC community, and there's things we pivoted on that. We did a lot of time going to visit apartment buildings to make sure that this plan really did represent our community. I think another part of that too was renters. We didn't have originally a lot of renter input, so really worked hard to make sure we got that. So I feel very proud that we worked very hard to make sure we had all those different feedbacks. But the second goal in that was to make sure this plan wasn't something just, and I think this is a classic phrase, so it's harder to actually action out to and easier to say, but to make sure this wasn't something that sits on the shelf. I think you hear that a lot with plans, but we really took that to heart and worked very closely with our consultant, and they worked very hard to make sure this wasn't something like that. So on your screen, you can see one of those checklists we talked about, where it goes through all these different items that our community members can do, be it under those various different categories. But then also we went a step further, which is to write down what sort of type of impact is it. Are you looking at a financial impact? Are you looking at time? Are you looking at something that's going to just sort of change your lifestyle? What's the impact going to be? What's the type going to be to you? What are you going to have to give back? Because a lot of these things, it does take a little bit of a shift in your thought process. And then also in there is important to see what's going to be high impact. So we had them also note down things that were high impact, maybe lower impact, so that people are aware what sort of impact you're going to have with each one of these different items. So the way this is sort of looking to be, they sort of saw this as is again, and you'll notice on here there's these little tick lines because we envisioned this on our plan to be something people could just take away and walk away with. So definitely something to reach out to community members. Number one, the one that you sort of see here, is focus more towards that, as we call it, climate-friendly homes. Also businesses, and then our own city organization. Look at things that we can change. So we have already used it. I know Commissioner Meyer used this at our Everything Electric event. She was going around handing these out to folks. We also plan to have this as a big board at some of our other tabling events. So really using this as a resource for our community so they're aware of that and even can write down their own things they're going to be working on. But that's just a quick overview of the finalization of that plan. I want to make sure that we're aware of that. And I know the commission did a lot of work on that too and giving input. So I appreciate all of your efforts with that one. Moving through, unless there's any specific questions right now with that one. Don't see any. Sustainable Minnetonka Awards, we had those awards were awarded also on Earth Day. We really did a lot that day. It was a busy council meeting, a very busy one. So here's a picture we had of all of our winners that were able to attend. So we had St. David's Center for Child and Family Development. Charlie Swanson also won under landscaping. Michelle and Traeger and Kevin Gordon won for water. Bailey Properties won for waste. And then also the Minnetonka Natural Resources Club was our winner for the Young Person Award that we have. Another one that item I want to give you an update on is grants. And one of these is really fresh off the pages, but I'll start with having Kessa talk a little bit about the solar and public buildings grant that the city's been working on.
Yes, so I worked along with Kevin Moss, who's our facilities manager, and we applied for solar on public buildings through the state, and we are currently in stage 2. So the grant, we applied for 3 different locations, and we got invited to the final stage for 2 of them. So the fire station and then well 3, which is out by Middle School East. And it's just, it would be a ground mounted system just right by the school, which could provide some interesting opportunities for education and kind of work with the school. And then it's also by regional trail, so it's kind of visible. And so stage 2 basically means the funding is earmarked. We just have to kind of dot all the I's and T's. So it's exciting, pending, and we're working on that, finalizing that application.
Thank you, Kessa. And then a couple other grants we have. First is the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. That's a federal grant that was out to cities of a certain size, and Minnetonka was one of them. So we had eligible monies that we had for that. That's been a very long grant process. So that started last year, either in the late summer, early fall, I believe. So we just are finally sort of getting to the final stage of that. So with a lot of federal programs, it takes a bit of time. But we are going to use those funds currently towards new electric vehicles. So right now the city has 2 Chevy Bolt EVs that's used by staff. So you might see those moving around the city, but we have 2 of those, and we'll be getting 2 more Ford E-Transit vans. So increasing that fleet, and our sort of thought process on those fleets is always when they come up, it's something we evaluate. So that was one that we were able to take advantage of. And then the last one is very, very new. This happened actually just today, hours before this meeting. I actually got an update on this. The city applied for an MPCA local climate grant. There's some money available for different initiatives that the different communities could work on. And that one we were putting really a lot of our stuff into. We wanted to look at how we could use that money towards and something that really wouldn't take a lot of money away from it. This is really going to go straight to residents. So we applied for $48,000 for home energy squad visits to make them free for residents for the next year. So that actually was I got that email today. So funding would start as soon as we hear back from them. I just got that email today, so we're emailing back to get that finalized. But funding would last through June 30th, 2025. So there'll be some things out. We'll be working closely with our communications team to make sure to get the word out on that, but also look to the commissioners to share that. We'll let you know when that's finalized. But very great news to hear today. That was really a great email to get. We also have one more update with Everything Electric. I know Kessa talked a bit about that, but hopefully she can share a little bit more and give some more detail on that event that we just had recently.
Thank you. Yeah. So I did mention it a little bit. I'm just going to show some pictures from the event and share a little bit more. So who we had participating. So we had electric vehicle dealerships. We had 5 dealerships this year, which had increased from previous years. So that was really exciting. And they had some good interactions and were able to actually do ride-in drives, which was very exciting. I got to drive some vehicles too, and I think that was really impactful and exciting for the attendees. The electric vehicle owners also showed up. So from that state group, the EV owner group, which is very active. And so we had 3 of those owners show up and actually just open up their vehicles. And like you all mentioned, it is always just so impactful to hear from an electric vehicle owner and just be able to talk with them and ask questions that you might kind of get a different answer than from a dealership. Like you're able to just have that more conversational and just like relational kind of interaction. So that was very exciting to have them there. And then another thing that we featured that has been getting a lot of hype lately is e-bikes. So we had 3 different companies offer e-bike test rides, and that was really great. And we had people just test ride around the event. And I think especially with the state rebate coming out and just a lot of interest in e-bikes, that really drew people in, and they enjoyed testing those out. And then we also expanded the event to include solar this year. So we had 5 solar providers that are pretty popular, common providers in the area come and just talk with residents about what they offer. And that was per a suggestion from before to expand into solar for this year. So we did that. And then we also included Solar United Neighbors, which does the community group buys for rooftop solar. We also had Gopher Ace came and shared electric yard equipment as well, and definitely had some good interactions with people around their equipment. And then we had commuter services, which came and gave out bike maps and talked about public transportation. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, we had the ride and drives and the e-bike test rides, which I think was just a really helpful interactive way for people to learn about the technology and what they might be interested in using themselves. So I did also give a survey out to everyone who participated in the event. So not the attendees, but the actual owners and companies and providers that were there. I've gotten 4 responses so far, and hopefully more. And we asked about event layout, communication, date and time, and whether they'd participate again, just so we kind of keep improving this event and making it more successful in the future. So in general, people had mostly positive feedback, a lot of, we had a scale of excellent, good, fair, and poor. And so a lot of excellence and goods in general. One person commented that, date and time maybe could consider a weekend. It's always kind of trying to figure out, when can we get the most people and make this more accessible. We tried to tag it with the farmers market, so I think that is very important. But then, yeah, it's kind of how do you make it accessible? And then most people said they would participate again as well. I just pulled some comments as well. People had some good communication, conversations, and were able to share accurate electric vehicle information, which was helpful. A lot of people wanted more signage. We did increase the signage from last year, but even more is always better. So I think some people commented, putting it even more in the farmers market, more along the entrances, more out on those like public roads that are nearby. People also this is similar feedback to past years, but how can we kind of continue to bridge from the farmers market attendees to the everything electric attendees that are in that parking lot? And so we did have people, circulating in the farmers market and sharing, but how do we kind of increase that even more and just make people aware that everything electric is happening? Someone also mentioned maybe expanding to consider more topics around home electrification. So they mentioned some other groups that some of which we did reach out to and communicate but maybe in the future could figure out how to include as well. So yeah, that was everything electric.
Thank you, Kesha. Thank you, Drew. Drew.
Yeah, so I have the last item here in our update. So that is our Green Corps members service ending here. So I don't think anyone's been probably as thankful for having Green Corps members as myself the last 10 months. I'd say just to give some background on that, these Kessa and Claire are not people that we hired. We didn't get to interview them. When we get this from Green Corps, they actually, the program Green Corps, they assign people to your city. So there is a little bit of trust there, hoping that you're going to get someone who's going to be good, so you never know what you're going to get. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice. We've been very lucky this round and also our last round with our Green Corps member. We had Julia Wells a few years ago. So just want to note a couple things I've noticed about them as we worked here. First off, they're always working. You can see the pictures of them, see them out there working hard at all their events. First thing, though, is important is they're both really independent workers. We were lucky to have 2 people who really we could hand things over to them. Just with some staffing reasons, there was a lot of things where I had to say, hey, here's the project, here's some info on it, go see what you can do with it. So they've both been really amazing at doing that, especially highlighted tonight talking about their multifamily outreach that they've done. That was a project that was started here at the commission, had some thoughts about having some multifamily outreach, and I just sort of gave it to them and said, run with this, here's some resources, here's some people to talk to, see what you can do. And they did a really amazing job with that. I think something too that you probably noticed tonight is new perspectives. I think a lot of, if you notice within your work, you get into doing the same thing over and over, and you maybe get into a little bit of a rut. You try to not do that, but it's just a little bit inevitable. But it's been great having both of them. I know one of the first things I noticed with Claire was we had an event, and she noted some things with waste, and right on the spot, we just had some things fixed. Brought some things over, got our recyclings over there. So that was really impressive. That was within like the first couple of weeks of her working here. I'm like, this is going to be a really good situation. I know KESA was another thing where the commission had some ideas about Earth Day events, and there wasn't really anything solid. There wasn't a format, there wasn't anything, but just said, hey, let's think of something to do for Earth Day. That was really as much as it was. And she had this program. So it was at Wilson that was really engaging, really educational, really meaningful for a lot of folks. So that was another really impressive opportunity to see them coming up with new ideas that are fresh. Last thing was they're both really good researchers. So for KESA, the KESA side, there's been a lot of grants coming out right now. It's been an amazing time for sustainability in the state and federal level, but it's been a really hard time for folks to try and stay up to date on what's coming out, and not just applying, we talked about our grants, but really educating the public on that, which is the harder part because they can be really complicated, but KESA's really stayed on top of that. And then Claire also, I've told her before, recycling, if you can explain recycling to someone, you can really do a lot. So that is a hard topic for a lot of people. You get a lot of really interesting questions and a lot of hard questions. And it's something that I was really impressed with her being able to stay on top of, hey, doing all the research, explaining how that works, and just creating these resources. So I have appreciated them probably more than anyone else has, because we really needed them at this time. I know I was out for a bit on parental leave and just said, hey, here you go. And we've had some staffing where they've been had to do a lot more independent work than probably was expected. But we're very lucky to have them. So I'd like to give them just one more last round of applause and say thank you for all your service here. With that, I'll turn it back to the chair for a report from Sustainability Commission members.
Thank you, Ms. Ameson. We will now move to item 7, which is a report from my fellow Sustainability Commissioners. Do you have anything you'd like to share with one other? Commissioner Henry, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Not so much to share, but some leftover questions from the previous presentations, too. The first one's for KESA. In the Everything Electric event, I know that you had some participation from citizens who owned electric vehicles. We know that the city has 2 electric vehicles and they're adding 2 more. Did the city represent the city, and did they talk about their experience as an electric vehicle owner?
That's a great question. We didn't include our electric vehicles, but we did include our electric yard equipment. So we, I forgot to mention that, and big shout out to our staff member, Todd Kozowski, who did show up and put out all of the electric yard equipment that the city does use. So that was great, and yes, in the future we should definitely include our electric vehicles. I know I was able to draw on that experience too for some of my presentations on electric vehicles, like for the summer sustainability series. I was asked about, you know, driving an electric vehicle, and for me it's been a newer experience with the vehicles, and it's been great to kind of be able to say that was a pretty seamless transition from my personal experience. So yeah.
It was a leading question, and I'd like to see the city share their experiences, because a lot of people, there's a lot of unknowns about it, and with all the experience the city has now, all the miles driven, there has to be some lessons learned and positives and negatives of EV ownership.
Yeah, and it also highlights our chargers. We always try to shout out, you know, we have these available, like please come use them. So yeah, thank you.
Good, thanks. And this last question is for Drew. You mentioned that you have 48,000 in Home Energy Squad visits. Are you going to put to that? What's your plan? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but previously we've discounted Home Energy Squad visits, but they weren't free. With $48,000, are you planning on having free Energy Squad visits, or, and it sounds like you're nodding your head in agreement, tell us how many homes that could benefit with the 48,000.
So I'll have to look back at the numbers, but essentially we every year have a number of funding for visits, $14,000. So we do that every single year. It's been that amount, and then this added on top of this added funding, that would be supplementing it really. So we have to still use our 14,000, but it'd be on top of that. So I'm running some quick numbers in my I'm running. Sorry, was it? Yeah, 62,000 is the number we have. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep. So 62,000 was how many we could do in theory. We'll see if we can get all that funding used. It's a lot. So yeah, we'll have a lot of those available for folks.
So just to confirm, that 620 free home energy squad visits that we can do? Do you anticipate that the city can give out that many, even if they're free?
We're gonna try. Yeah, exactly. So, our only experience with having them free was Excel gave us had a free vouchers for a limited time last year, and I think we had right around 100 in a quarter, which was a lot more than we usually have had. I think it's going to be depending a lot on what we get from people. We're going to really push it and really use all of our efforts to try and get that word out from a lot of folks to make sure they're all aware of that they're free and available for folks. But if we can get there, we're going to hope. We're going to do our best.
And with our Green Corps members leaving, what avenues do we have to advertise and get the word out to all citizens?
Yeah, so the one that we've always used is our communications team. So we have a really great communications team that works very hard at getting the word out on things like this. Utilizing all of our different resources we have and all of our avenues to reach people, that's what we're going to use. So that includes social media, that includes our Minnetonka memo, which is extremely well read, that I always have noted. Yeah, we're going to use all those different ones we can. So we just found out about that today. We don't have a plan at this point because we didn't know if we were going to get this money in the first place. So we're going to be meeting very soon to put together something to spread the word.
I'm assuming a big splash page on Sustainable Minnetonka is in order too. Thank you.
Any other comments that you would like to share? If not, I have one.
Can I
Actually, go right ahead.
Sorry,
No,
thank you.
go ahead.
I also would just like to second the sustainable corner for the Minnetonka memo that I know we've been working on. Although I will also say I did appreciate seeing us in the Minnetonka memo. Did anybody else see us? To see the picture? Yeah, it was. Did you guys see it? Nobody saw it?
I look at it.
You didn't see us?
I must have missed it.
Yes, I think I might. We were in the Minnetonka memo when we went to, what picture was it? When we went to, it was an older picture, but it was when we went on one of our field trips, if you will.
Compost.
I don't think it was the compost. I can't remember. Drew knows what I'm talking about.
Wasn't that the Herc?
It was
Was
the
it
Herc.
the-
I think it was the Herc.
Yeah.
I think it was the Herc. Yeah, it was such a fun surprise, looking in the Minnetonka memo. I'm like, there we are. So that was fun. And then additionally, I'm going to go back to the bags thing. Also, let's maybe get away from doing gift bags and give reusable bags. Put our gifts in there. That's just my little report.
Very
But
good.
that's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Well, let me conclude by saying something that we all know, but when we think about a lot. This is from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Center for Environmental Information. This was dated January 17th, 2024. 2023 was the warmest year in modern temperature record. No surprise if you follow that. The 10 warmest years in the 174-year record have all occurred during the last decade, 2014 through 2023. So our work is more important than ever. We all know that. We all believe in science. So, it's a trend we all try to do. Every little bit helps, as we all know that. It seems like it's fighting a losing battle, but it's not. And we do the best we can with the resources that we have. So I just wanted to share that. There are a lot of articles. I'm pleased to say, based on our survey and our climate action adaptation plan, 85% of the folks, out of the 850 folks that were contacted, were extremely supportive of our efforts. It would be unrealistic to think it would be 100%, but I think 85% of the folks that were contacted, we should be very pleased, very proud that they're very supportive of all of our efforts. So with that, if no one has anything else.
Sorry, I have one more thing.
Yes,
I
yes.
had it in my notes and my computer died. Drew, I remember when we got a tour, we brought someone here and they did a tour of several of the facilities. We ended in the kitchen. I think you were here for this, Chair. And they said, I thought there was a site that we could go to and look at a bunch of appliances that were like energy efficient appliances. Do you remember this?
That was probably one of our energy day
Because it was here.
Yeah, it was here. I remember that.
But anyways, if we
Yeah,
could
we
add
do,
it
we
to
do.
eventually to our planning, if you could take note, because I would love to do that. I know we had talked about doing that. I would love to do that as one of our like outings into the community. I can't remember what. I'm sure we can look back on our notes somewhere, but I would like to add that to our list of things to look into, to look at energy efficient appliances.
It was here
I think
in
it
the
was a
kitchen.
GE. Yeah, it was,
It was
in
here
the
in the
kitchen. Unit
kitchen.
in the kitchen.
Yeah,
we talked
yeah.
about appliances.
Yeah, I
Was it
think that was
GE?
Through Energy Smart, the Energy
Yeah,
Smart program,
yeah,
and they were looking at facilities. Those were actually looking at commercial, but we can still look at energy efficient items for
Yes.
personal use too.
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, that will conclude item number 7 in our agenda. Item number 8 is any other business. If not, we're going to move to item number 9. That brings us to our last item of the agenda, adjournment. Would anyone like to make that motion? One of my fellow commissioners want to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Norman. Do I have a second?
I second the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.